The year is 1992. On a small papaya farm on the big island of Hawaii, a grower checks his trees the way he has every morning for years. Then he sees it. A ring, small, almost pretty, stamped into the skin of a single fruit. He does not know it yet, but that ring is a death sentence. Within 2 years, it will spread from tree to tree, farm to farm, until nearly 9 out of every 10 papaya trees on the island are infected or gone. There is no cure. No pesticide touches it. No amount of care saves an infected tree. There is only one thing that will stop it, and in 1992, that thing does not exist yet. This is the history of papaya, a fruit so strange that it carries an enzyme capable of breaking down the same proteins found in human flesh, a fruit that very nearly disappeared from one of its own founding regions, and a fruit that would eventually be saved by something no ordinary crop in history had ever needed before. We are not there yet. First, 4,000 years back, papaya began in the lowland forests of southern Mexico and Central America. Wild ancestors of the plant grew fast and soft-stemmed, nothing like a hardwood tree, closer in structure to an oversized herb than to anything else bearing fruit that size. The Maya were likely among the first to notice something the fruit does after death. Cut into an unripe papaya, and a thick white sap seeps out. Latex packed with an enzyme called Papain. Rub that sap into tough meat before cooking it, and the meat comes out tender. The enzyme does to protein exactly what your own stomach acid does. It digests it, which means, in a very literal sense, papaya carries inside it a tool built to break down flesh, the same category of substance your body uses on the food you eat. That is not a metaphor. It is the plant's actual internal chemistry, still used today in commercial meat tenderizer, wound care ointments, and some digestive supplements. The Maya used it long before any of that had a name. Wrap meat in papaya leaves overnight and it worked. No one needed to know why. That fact will not matter again for thousands of years. But hold on to it. It comes back. Papaya had one trait no other major fruit crop of its era could match: speed. Most fruiting trees take years to reach maturity. An olive tree can take a decade before its first real harvest. Fig grove needs seasons of patient tending. Papaya could flower and bear fruit within its first year of growth. A soft-stemmed, fast-cycling plant that behaved almost more like a large annual crop than a tree. That single trait is what turned papaya from a regional Central American staple into one of the most efficient fruit crops a farmer could plant anywhere warm enough to support it. Fast maturity meant fast returns, minimal long-term investment, and the ability to replant and recover quickly after a bad season, a poor harvest, or damage from storms. By the 20th century, that efficiency had turned papaya into a major agricultural export across dozens of countries. India, Brazil, Mexico, Indonesia, and the Philippines among the largest producers, alongside a smaller but economically vital industry rooted in the volcanic soil of Hawaii. In some regions, it wasn't just a crop. It was the difference between a farming family keeping their land or losing it, because papaya paid back the labor invested faster than almost anything else they could grow. That same speed and efficiency, though, came with a hidden cost. A crop that grows fast in dense, closely packed groves, harvested from trees that mature and are replaced within a few short years, creates exactly the kind of concentrated, genetically uniform growing conditions that a fast-moving pathogen thrives in. The trait that made papaya profitable is the same trait that would later make it vulnerable. Long before papaya became a commercial export, its usefulness had already outgrown the kitchen. Papain, the same enzyme that let Maya cooks tenderize meat with a wrapped leaf, is now extracted commercially and used in wound debridement treatments, helping clear damaged tissue from serious wounds and burns in clinical settings. It appears in some digestive aid supplements marketed to help break down proteins in the gut. And it is very likely the active ingredient in the powdered meat tenderizer, sitting in an ordinary kitchen spice rack today. Same enzyme, Different bottle. In the Philippines and across parts of Latin America, papaya leaf tea became and remains a widespread folk remedy, brewed and given to patients suffering from dengue fever based on generations of anecdotal use. That folk practice eventually drew real scientific interest, with researchers investigating a possible link between compounds in the leaf and improved platelet counts in dengue patients, an area of ongoing study rather than settled clinical consensus. In Ayurvedic medicine in India, papaya leaf and unripe fruit were folded into traditional treatment for digestive complaints almost as soon as the plant arrived, valued for the same enzymatic property discovered an ocean away by the Maya. In traditional Chinese medicine, papaya was classified as a fruit that supported digestion, often given to patients recovering from illness. None of this makes papaya a substitute for modern medical treatment, but it does mean the plant's usefulness was never purely nutritional. From the first Maya cooks onward, papaya has occupied a strange middle ground between food and remedy, exactly the kind of dual identity that made it valuable enough to protect when everything nearly went wrong. Wave 1 begins in 1519, Spanish ships moving through the Caribbean and Central America encountered papaya in Maya and Aztec territory. And unlike many local crops, this one traveled well. Papaya seeds are small, dry, and durable. Exactly the kind of cargo a sailing ship could carry for months without losing viability. Within decades, papaya had been planted in Spanish trading posts across the Philippines, then India, then Southeast Asia. Wave 2 follows almost immediately behind it. By the mid-1500s, papaya had reached Malacca, one of the busiest ports in the world at the time, and from there it spread along existing spice routes into China, into East Africa, into the Pacific Islands, faster than almost any other New World crop of its era. Within a single human lifetime, a fruit that had existed only in a narrow strip of Central American forest was growing on 4 continents. Wave 3 is quieter, but it is the one that matters most for where this story is headed. Sometime in the 1800s, papaya reaches Hawaii, and the islands turn out to be close to perfect for it. Volcanic soil, consistent warmth, reliable rain. By the 20th century, Hawaiian papaya had become one of the state's defining agricultural exports, eventually accounting for the vast majority of papaya sold in the continental United States. Papaya never made it into the world's oldest scriptures. It simply arrived too late, after the Torah, after the Gospels, after the Quran, after the Buddhist canon had already been written. It could not become sacred the way the fig or the olive did, because by the time it reached the regions where those texts were shaped, the texts themselves were already centuries old. But absence from scripture was never the same as absence of reverence. Every place papaya landed, it was absorbed fast, planted close to home, and folded into household medicine and daily meals rather than treated as a curiosity. Within a century of arriving somewhere new, papaya was rarely spoken of as foreign at all. That kind of quiet, undocumented trust, spread through households rather than temples, is its own form of reverence, even without a single verse written about it, which brings the thread back to that ring. Papaya ringspot virus had existed in small pockets on Oahu for years before 1992. Contained enough that most growers barely thought about it. Then it reached the Puna district on the Big Island, the heart of Hawaii's papaya industry, and containment stopped being possible. The virus spreads through aphids, insects too small to stop with fencing, too fast-moving to quarantine effectively across an open, growing region. An infected tree develops the telltale ring pattern on its fruit. Its leaves mottle and distort, and its yield collapses. There is no chemical treatment. There is no resistant traditional variety. Every papaya farmer in the region was growing the same vulnerable stock, planted in the same dense, fast-cycling groves that had made the crop so profitable in the first place. Within a few years, Hawaii's papaya production had fallen by roughly half. For an industry this concentrated in one place, this was not a bad season. It was closer to an extinction event. a plant pathologist named Dennis Gonsalves, who had grown up on a sugar plantation on Kauai and later became a researcher, had been working on the ringspot problem for years, watching the same crisis unfold that farming families across Puna were living through firsthand. Conventional breeding could not solve it. There was no papaya variety naturally resistant enough to cross into commercial stock in time. So his team tried something no fruit crop in history had ever used to survive. They took a small piece of the virus's own genetic code and inserted it directly into papaya's genome, designed to make the plant recognize the virus on contact and shut the infection down before it could spread. It worked. The resulting variety, released to Hawaiian growers in 1998, was named Rainbow Papaya, the first genetically engineered fruit crop ever approved for commercial sale in the United States. Within a few years, ringspot devastated farms across Puna were growing fruit again. Rainbow papaya also became almost immediately one of the most contested fruits ever grown. To the farmers who lived through 1992 to 1998, rainbow papaya was straightforwardly a rescue. To a growing global movement skeptical of genetic engineering in food, it became a flashpoint in a debate about corporate control of seed and long-term ecological effects that is still unresolved today. Both positions were argued in good faith by people who had genuinely different relationships to risk and to what counted as an acceptable trade-off. Both of those things are true at once, and neither cancels the other out. The next time you hold a papaya, understand what's actually in your hand. Not simply a fruit, a plant that traveled 4 continents in a single human lifetime once ships found it. Carries an enzyme built to break down the exact tissue you're made of, and only survived one of the greatest threats to its existence because scientists gave it a piece of the virus's own code to defend itself with. That is not simply the history of a fruit. That is a species that was rescued by borrowing a weapon from the thing trying to kill it. If this is the kind of history that surprises you, the next one is just as strange. A fruit most people assume has always looked the way it does today, until you learn how recently that changed.